I'm Timmy.
I'm Justin.
I'm Nathan.
And this is Three Old Tech Dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So apparently the FBI, at least it came across it. I think it was on like CNN. Anyway, so they're really thinking this guy who detonated a bomb in downtown Nashville was trying to stop 5G because stuff. And
I figured he hated AT&T. I think AT&T was definitely his target. There's no doubt in my mind that that's the case.
Well, and the fact he was broadcasting, hey, get away from it. It's an actual bomb, like seriously.
Yeah.
I don't think he was actually trying to hurt any person, but he was definitely trying to do like serious damage to either one of the buildings. I would assume AT&T at this point as well. But yeah, it's like, what the, wow. Just
Regionally, he accomplished that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it cut off telephones and many other, services, cellular, internet for AT&T and other customers, not just AT&T. Not only in Nashville, but throughout most of Tennessee, parts of Alabama, parts of Georgia, parts of Kentucky. He pulled something off there in that case, unfortunately.
I think he also took the Circle network down in case anybody cares. My aunt was distraught.
Circle network? I don't know what that even is.
It's kind of like TNN was back in the day. It's an over-the-air channel.
They broadcast the Opry.
They do the opera. It's very country-esque, but she said that she has not been able to pick it up since that happened.
Priorities, right? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, well, and then taking out one building and doing that much technological damage, which obviously means that, oops, we didn't have backups of everything. Yeah, but it actually proves another concept that how fragile this stuff really is, which is not good. But
I've talked to a couple of people who seem to think he understood the backup structure of this facility and intentionally damaged it in such a way that all the backups failed because their generators no longer worked and everything. I mean, it was that bad.
it's possible, but again, it just speaks to the fact that it's also one location. So what happens if this was just hit by a tornado and not, a lunatic, take out half as much stuff. I keep looking down here, but you guys are down here, so that's why. Yeah, but it also speaks to the fact that may be a good reason that you want to have your ham license, because if something catastrophically goes wrong, guess what? You can still use it.
That's right.
Because, unless you're going through a repeater, but simplex doesn't require anything other than your radio and someone else's radio. There's no other pieces required, which is a good thing. Sad. And I'm glad no one seriously got injured, although they said they found, I haven't read it today, but they said they found what looked like human remains, which that's bad. But
well, let me fill you in on that. They not only identified human remains, but via DNA, they have now correlated those remains with their suspect. They know who did it, and he died in the blast. He was in the RV. So
suicide bomb.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And so his motives are now a little more unclear, but it's so obvious. I mean, you can literally go to the address that they were searching in Antioch, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, and
and see the RV.
The RV is there over multiple years. Yeah, where it was behind his house and moving around and the like. So
wow.
So obviously, it's kind of a sad thing to think about, but obviously he's planning this for a while, which is disturbing, needless to say.
Yeah. So here's some other things that are interesting that make it strange. He was an IT guy he was 63 years old.
Yep.
He apparently, I've seen this in various stories, so I only know what I've read online like anyone else, but there was also he had been doing freelance IT for like a real estate place, and he suddenly just quit about a month ago, really out of character behavior, and then this happened. So who knows what got in this fella's head?
Yeah. I'm sure you can't do anything about this, Timmy, but your internet keeps scaling your picture down quite a bit. Like it's a little bitty square floating in blackness. I think it's doing it to prevent you from locking up.
Yeah, maybe. I've never seen that happen. So, oh well, it is what it is. My internet sucks. Let's be honest, and it's AT&T. So who knows what that means?
Oh.
They're still fighting their problems. So
back to it though. The fact that it's, even though, okay, so let's say the guy had a complete understanding how this place worked, which is possible, but that still speaks to the fact that how fragile infrastructure is in this country, which we know about anyway, especially like power outages and things like this. I mean,
right. There was that blackout. How many years ago was it? Was it like 10 or so now years ago that took out like most of the East Coast?
Like all of New York again.
it was in 2003. So we're like 16, 17 years ago.
Was it really that long ago?
It was.
I'm old.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll have to send you the old picture thought of old. Anyway, back to this. Why my brain's still thinking about this though. But that's even a better reason for you to get your ham license. So you can, if something happens, you have the ability to have communications with family and stuff like that. And then obviously things like backup power are a very handy thing. I would also recommend personally that you not, not all your eggs in one basket type thing. I mean, obviously, I've got like AT&T internet, but my cell phone's Verizon, and and other things like that. So if one freaks out, I've still got something. But it's kind of like you never have enough synthesizers. Is 17 too many?
Maybe.
Nah.
Anyway, that's my thought on this whole thing, which is really unfortunate. But at least no one else got serious. From what I understand, anyway, no one else got seriously injured. I heard there were some minor injuries, but nothing serious. They were like knocked over, maybe had some glass hit them or something, which is really, really thankful that no one else got seriously injured, because that's
right.
But I really don't think this guy was trying to hurt people. Really don't think so.
I can't decide. The 5G idea is plausible.
It's really sounding like
I really can't decide if it was that or if it was he was out to get AT&T, because he definitely accomplished that goal if that was it, because he really hurt him. Like
just regionally though, right? It was just
but that's a pretty big region. So
well, that's probably the southern part of the trunk or something they took out.
Yeah, it's a tier one site for the internet, so it's part of the backbone, and he
I don't know,
to stop it. So
I don't want to minimize what the guy did, but in the grand scheme of things, they're probably, by this time next week, you'll never know that it happened as far as their functionality.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because that's so people who think they can like accomplish something by blowing up buildings, like let's say this one or maybe Oklahoma City, doesn't really slow things down much, and not for long. It's really kind of like the worst way to do anything. You're much better off trying a political solution rather than murder or mass explosions.
right.
For one, the FBI is not going to come to your door and arrest you if you have like a political statement. For example, you write your congressman and go, "Hey, I want this changed. I think this should be this way." That doesn't get you arrested. They may not do it, but there's a little bit less crazy in that too.
So I'm going to take this moment because I just noticed it. Tim, your head is perfectly centered where you block out tech. So it just says 3 old dudes behind you.
That's a win. I'm just going to leave it that way. Yeah.
Oh, my.
That's funny. So, this is interesting though. So what if What if this guy had blown up, been working with other guys and done 6 or 7 of these facilities in major cities?
Yeah.
That's a serious concern for the FBI.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, it didn't just hurt the internet. It also took out POTS telephone lines. It took out 911 service in most major cities in the state of Tennessee.
Kentucky and like Ohio is weird.
Mm-hmm.
But that,
And-
okay, so I've dealt with AT&T a little bit when we were putting stuff in at the schools. And their southern, because we were going through their southern Enoch. And in the middle of setting it up one time, which it wasn't a, like, bombing or anything like that. It just was a system failure. But their Enoch went down. It was down for a month. And we literally were in the middle of a connection and everything died and it didn't come back.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, they finally wound up getting it fixed, but it's one of those things that it shouldn't be this fragile, but it can be, and occasionally is.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
something
that's bothered me, and I've just I look at the down detector sites, and there's all these people comment, "Come on, AT&T, what's the deal?" And I'm like, they freaking had a giant suicide bomb blow up the building, and people won't give them leeway. It's like, what?
Yeah, that's a little
as magical as the internet seems. That's not realistic. I mean, freaking have some patience with them. Come on, they literally lost a major facility because somebody just blew it up one day. That doesn't happen every day.
I unfortunately think that shows the state of your modern average person. I mean, we have, as a society, gotten to the point where it's going to work. I mean, we just assume it's going to work.
We've been lucky that less things like this have, there haven't been many of these things. So people are used to this high uptime. And then, this is not good that this happened, because there could be copycats where people go, oh, he could do that. What if we do it 5 times?
Well, and that's a serious problem. Is what
it is.
It's like, what happens if this guy was part of a group that may not be out to like actually hurt people, but by blowing up 911 connections, you are. I mean,
did this guy like work for AT&T at any point in his life?
Makes you wonder.
It did mention that he had a telecom background. No detail I've seen. I think more will come out about the guy.
I mean, I'm just thinking.
I bet he did at some point. He was 63, so he wasn't IT forever. Telecoms probably where a guy that old might have started.
Your average person wouldn't know that, that building would disable that much.
Yeah. I mean, you look at our building here in Bedford, and it's just a nondescript building to say AT&T, I'm going to think, but maybe it still says Bell Telephone. But it's just switching network. I mean, I know what's in it because I've been told.
Mm-hmm.
But
have you though?
Oh yeah, I have friends with AT&T. They tell me what's in the building.
They just told you a story.
Yeah, well, probably. But
there's really a dimensional portal in there.
Yeah, it's like,
or Dominion voting machines. I saw some strange comments. I mean, it's clear how many people don't understand how technology or equipment works.
No, they have no idea.
People in Nashville, I saw some people come in. Well, it didn't go off till 11:30 a.m., so that building's okay. I'm like, no, that building held its own ability with backup equipment until they all failed, is what happened.
Right.
That's when the batteries died.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, it's something like, they always just assume, well, power went out, so the whole building just failed. No, okay, so the reality is, but on the bottom or top, typically it's the bottom because the stupid weight of the batteries. But at the bottom of most large-scale racks, there is a UPS. And no, it is not United Parcel Service. It's uninterruptible power supply. Basically, it's a very, very big battery backup. So think of it this way. It's a battery charger with a very large set of batteries with a power inverter on the other end of it with some switching. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's literally just that. And
a really annoying piezo sounder.
Well, yeah. So we had the constant on one. So they wouldn't actually turn the alert off, so they wouldn't beep at you when like I said, because it drives people nuts. But yeah, so those batteries can last depending on how big you get them. I mean, they can potentially
and what's on them,
what's hooked to them, what the load is. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into this. And I think the ones we had at the school back in the day were the 8 kVA APCs.
Dang.
And we had the the batteries are stupid huge. They're almost
like
foot long. They were like, yay, and then 3.5 foot long, and there was like 4 of them in those things. So so here's the funny thing. So we got the first one of those big ones, hilariously, at Springville, which is probably no longer there now. Yeah, another reason. But so it came on a pallet, big pallet, heavy pallet, took pallet jack to move it, pallet, one like and I got this thing. I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'm gotta be the one to put it in. So I unboxed the whole thing and started looking at it, going, wow, the thing only weighs 400 pounds. Sure. No. So I disassembled it into little bitty pieces, moved it into the room, which is, just like 10 feet, and then bolted it onto the rack and then reassembled the whole thing. These maintenance guys come out about a couple hours later. And they're like, how on earth did you move that? It broke one of our pallet jacks and everything else. I'm like, well, it's fine when you disassemble the small pieces.
Oh, you didn't just go, I moved it by hand. It was no big deal.
I just picked up. It wasn't a big deal. Come on, big wussy.
Yeah, just pick her up and toss her over.
The batteries were 50 pounds each.
It's heavy.
Which, so the batteries are 200 pounds of this thing. And of course,
sounds like the units we have at work.
Yeah.
Because they're gigantic, like 12 UAPC things. So
yeah, that's what this thing was. It's huge. So it's probably maybe the same thing. I don't know. But I mean, they're kind of a common model.
Yeah, we use these giant guys, but they're usually only up on battery for minutes at a time while they wait for the generator to kick in. So.
My setup at work is fairly. I mean, I have a bunch of them, but they're just like the rack mount 1500 UPSs. But in reality, they only have to sustain whatever they're connected to for about 30 to 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the generator assumes the load and it switches back over to what it thinks is utility AC.
Yeah. And which if your generator's good, it should look at
right.
With the schools.
I know ours does.
Yeah. So I'm assuming what happened with this AT&T building was that the generators were destroyed. So
they were damaged. Supposedly the cooling. My brother, one of my brothers, is quite the conspiracy theorist, but he's pretty smart about it.
Not Ted.
And I studied. No, it didn't. It was on the others. There's cooling intakes supposedly from the Cumberland River that feed this generation system and the cooling for the building. The RV was parked right over them. There's a flyover from one of the TV stations down there I'm watching. You see right where it was, the big access plates are blown right out. The whole sidewalk's gone and the plates are just gone, just big gaping holes in the ground. And they think some think that's what's going on. AT&T did actually state, our generators are damaged. We're trying to get them going, but they're not having luck. So the power is the issue down there, big issue down there. I think a lot of the equipment may actually be intact because the building was reinforced. It didn't blow up the building. It messed up the first level and things related to that, and that was enough to take it all out. So
and most of those buildings are heavily steel reinforced, thick concrete.
I got confused at first. I thought they were talking about the Batman building. Because that's what's known as the AT&T building. No, this is a block over, and I looked on the street view, and sure enough, you go along there, and there's no shops in it, but it says AT&T right on it. And my first thought was, why would you mark that? It had a AT&T sign on it saying, "Hey, this is maybe an important building for AT&T."
Yeah, should put like orphan food storage or something like that. It was like, can we donate? Oh no, we donate down there.
Label it Nashville convent. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
nobody blows up nuns.
If this guy had knowledge of AT&T's infrastructure, though, he would have known about it regardless of what it said.
True.
That's true.
It's like, how come that thing says like nunnery on it and 100 AT&T trucks going there every day?
Right. Yeah. What's sad is it was literally parked basically on the sidewalk right next to that AT&T building. But the buildings across the street that were from like before the Civil War, the ones that took most of the damage because they were so much weaker. So,
right.
They were like, just the pictures I could see online. They're all like, literally like red brick mortar.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It won't survive any of that.
Yeah.
At least it looked like one of them completely collapsed.
It did. Yeah. Every floor in it's pancaked wooden studs, and they just collapsed down in when the front went away. So
Quite unfortunate.
that. They don't survive, and that's where you're like, good job. You destroyed a huge amount of like people's livelihood to try and stop AT&T, and honestly, probably is only going to stop them for like a day.
Yeah, I mean, the AT&T building sides are intact. What's crazy is up at the top, like the panels that make the trim folded up. It's like it went up the side of the wall and the wall held up.
Yeah.
So he didn't even mess it up that bad, the building itself. So
yeah.
Hashtag don't be nuts.
Yeah. The 5G thing did cross my mind. I've not seen that, but yeah, it's just this guy get finally driven crazy by the conspiracy theories, well, we got to stop him. We got to stop him. Well,
is 5G supposed to turn us all to zombies or something?
Some people believe that, yes.
Oh.
Well, it probably caused COVID. I'm just kidding.
I'll be darned.
Yes, something.
There's
no idea.
It did not cause COVID. Okay.
No.
I heard it on the internet. Them 3 old tech dudes said it.
Yeah, no doubt. There are some really you're looking at people going, are you just wow. Wow. Yeah.
It did open up the floor for the ham radio conversation, because you guys have heard me mention before. I don't know if we mentioned on the channels. I kind of felt like that amateur radio isn't as critical as it had been because of the ability during hurricanes for like Verizon to roll out portable equipment. Well, that was even tricky in Nashville because they cut out the main core, with this situation. So,
well, then, yeah. So there's, depending on, that's also the headache you have is that ham radio. So if we look at Katrina way back now, the only reason that ham radio was so long-term helpful in that is because people had no idea what to do, like none. Now, at least in the fact that long-term wise, they have a plan. It's the short-term issues that you really get into that you still have, because it takes, so let's say they have strategically placed 100 portable towers around the country, and another Katrina happens, unfortunately. And it still is going to take them a couple days to get that set up. Now, after that, they're up and running. But that day, 2 days, whatever, that's where you still need emergency communications. I know we're talking, well, the cell tower survived, but honestly, the cell tower survived during Katrina because that was lucky that they weren't knocked over by debris. But, that's the whole hindsight.
yeah, they truly had cut off communication there. And that was the first thing came to mind. I'm like, well, this kind of invalidates my thoughts on the usefulness of amateur radio, because amateur radio comes right back into place as you actually manage to truly cut off the telephones.
Yeah. And unfortunately, in this case, it was through stupidity and idiot.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I don't know. You're not going to, I would like to say you're gonna be able to fix this long term with people understanding. Okay, 5G is not going to fry your brain. It's just high speed. It's not like because it's like when they said, well, 4G is going to fry your brain. You felt.
I was going to say I don't really remember this hoopla about 4G.
It was some, not as much though. But they always thought, okay, the cell phone's going to fry your brain. Dude, these things put out milliwatts. They're not a lot of power. And they're like, what's the, and the reality, here is an actual truth. So the 2.4 gigahertz PG band for your access point is actually on the same frequency as your microwave oven. However, your microwave oven cooks food because it's 700 to 1,000 watts contained. If you open the door, it would actually lose a lot of its power. But, your phone's only putting out, 30 milliwatts. So, or 0.03, 0.03 watts, which is nothing. And that's at full power. Most of the time, it's way less than that because they auto power back, especially if, say, battery and all this, because they're usually running more 5 to 10 milliwatts, which is 0.01 watts or 0.005 watts. Your brain's not going to fry from that, but it's because people hear these things and go, well, that's the same. It should fry you because it's the same thing. It's not. I mean, it sort of is, but it's really way not.
It's the same people who are mad at AT&T who are literally, sending people into work on Christmas because they got their building bombed because they can't watch, Netflix. So
yeah,
selfish.
And then everyone gets pulled in away from their families, on Christmas morning. Which around the world is not necessarily a big holiday for everyone. It is in the United States and Canada and most of Europe and a good chunk of several other countries.
Talk about a time in history to be a bad time for the internet to go down, though.
Well, yeah. Super Bowl in the United States would be worse.
Oh, could you imagine? Could you imagine?
That would be a problem.
People would come unhinged.
Yeah.
Because so many people now watch that. They don't, they don't have, cable and all this kind of stuff. Like me, then, I stream it.
Stream it, yeah.
I'll pay the $2 or whatever and just stream it. In case you're curious, that's, by the way, the only football game a year I watch because I'm not really a big football guy. I do find it neat once a year.
I'm hit or miss. I watch it sometimes. So.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I mean, it's like, I don't know. To me, the whole thing, obviously, it was, someone who went over the deep end of WoW, but, that's part of it. Anyway, that should be enough of that conversation.
Yeah,
indeed.
It's an interesting happening and an unusual happening. So, of course, we don't know all the motives, but I really think the AT&T situation. I think that was the target period. So, was to damage them. Who knows if we'll ever know why? So, I don't know.
Would assume, based on, previous history of just, things like that happening, that there was some note videotape,
I'm going to say this guy strikes me as a manifesto kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Here's one. So you guys have heard about the RV playing the messages, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It also played the song "Downtown" by Petulia Clark, a 1960s song, not long before the bomb went off. Yeah.
Really?
That's creepy.
I did not hear that. I don't think I don't know that song either.
Well, you can look it up. You'll be like, what?
On some YouTube channel. They had posted it off their security camera, which is
there's
creepy.
one. Yeah, that's the only video of it. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
So where did he get the voice? Didn't they say it was a female voice that was doing the countdown?
It sounded electronic to me, like generated by PC or something.
Yeah, I see.
Recordings he made or something.
Well, even Google has their own text to speech now. Some of it
was that kind of voice.
So, yeah, some of it quite impressive actually. I just used some of it for our automation stuff at work, and some of it's really it sounds nice.
Yep.
Was that you, Nathan?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. I heard a boop and I was like, what?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just crazy, but yeah, it's welcome to 2020. All 57 months of it. Yeah, I mean, if you're watching this, as we're talking about this, and you're watching this, and it's still 2020 or after, keep in mind it is what is today, the 27th. I've looked that one up. Of December. So we really, and we don't really know what's been. I mean, the FBI is not going to tell you everything they find. Obviously, it's a criminal investigation. So yeah, they're just going to tell you. I mean, obviously, the one thing is, if the criminal is dead, they're not really going to get any kind of conviction from this, other than to find out what happened, and that's just a big.
I think that's the biggest thing, is to find out why, and to find out if he had any help.
Yeah, accomplices.
They seem to be pretty confident he was working alone, but they're not sure. But they have at least said that. But who knows? The sad thing is for the business owners that lost these buildings. I've seen at least one Facebook post where one of them pointed out, "Well, we did this and this year, and all the trouble they've had with COVID, and they're not coming back." So,
yeah, I mean, that's a whole other discussion. But the nightmare of small businesses are going through.
Nathan, Justin, and I's prayers go out to the people of Nashville, Tennessee, especially those affected downtown who had apartments and businesses that were destroyed or damaged. And if you'd like, why don't you send a little money down there? This page here, visitmusiccity.com. It's got a donate link there, as you can see. Maybe help some people out. It's a beautiful city. We really love it, and like to see it recover as best it can. Thanks for watching this video. We appreciate it. Till next time, I'm Timmy.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Justin. And this is 3 Old Tech Dudes.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on 3 Old Tech Dudes. Please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more tech, old and new, tinkering at the workbench, repairs, ham radio, electronics, computers, and more. Please like this video and share 3OTD with your friends to help us grow the channel. We tweet at 3 Old Tech Dudes 1 on Twitter, and you can keep up with us on Facebook. Just search for 3OTD and look for our logo. Thanks so much for watching.